Welcome to the podcast, What the Flex, where I talk to badass women about their health, wellness, and fitness journeys. My name is Uta, and I am your host. Today, we're getting real about body image, self-perception, and the roller coaster of learning to love the skin we're in. My guest, Sofia Ellmén, has been on her own journey, from battling insecurities to finding confidence and joy through fitness. We talk about how social media messes with your minds, why mindset shifts matter more than six-pack abs, and how listening to your body is the ultimate flex. So grab your headphones, ditch the self-doubt, and let's dive in. And now, keep flexing and enjoy listening. Hello, and a very big welcome to my today's guest, Sofia Ellmén. I'm super happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time. Sofia and I, we actually know each other from work. And I don't think I am exaggerating when I say the coolest Danish company, Pleo, at least for me. It's already quite a few years back, but we've stayed in touch through social media. And now I'm very happy to talk to you because I also know that you're not only very dedicated at work, but also in your private life when it comes to health and fitness. But I would love to hear it from you. So feel free to tell us a little bit who you are, and also to make it a little bit more personal and relatable. Tell us what you are known for amongst your circle of friends and family or colleagues.
Yeah, thank you. So it's right saying that we know each other from quite many years back. So that maybe is a good segue to kind of who I am. So Sofia is my name, and 36 years old. Have been living for 5.5 years now in Copenhagen. So moved from Helsinki to here to kind of try to start a new life, if you may. Just kind of starting in a new industry and a new type of role, and met also Uta at Pleo when I started there. And then since then, I've kind of stayed on the tech company wagon and kind of gone into another company called Plan Day, and now working there as a marketing leader, just focusing on partnerships and regional marketing strategies in my day-to-day. And how would my friends describe me and colleagues? I would say that it's a bit different depending on like who you ask, but I would say that friends usually, like if we talk about like qualities that they see in me, I would say that everyone says that I'm quite fun, like very kind of easygoing and finding jokes in everyday life. But then I think the other interesting comment that I've gotten, or from my perspective interesting, is that they think that I'm very brave, which I somehow maybe can relate to, but somehow it's also been a surprise to me that they see me like this. But then I guess it comes from kind of the life choices that I've made, which to me don't feel that brave, like moving countries and stuff like that, because it has like felt natural for me and it has felt like something that I really wanted to do. But for them that don't maybe aspire to do things like this, it feels like, wow, that was a big step in your life. And I think the other aspect of the braveness is maybe kind of standing up for myself and standing up for people that are close to me. And I think a fun anecdote on that is that my mom gave me this necklace from Eva Attling when I was 20 years old that has this horseshoe. And it's kind of like as a luck pendant, but it also has text that says "take no shit." And I think
Nice.
that one's kind of describing quite well my attitude towards life in terms of like, of course, it's not that I'm confrontational as a person. It just means that I kind of stand my ground, and it's not very easy to step on my toes. And I think that that's also something that I've been brought up with, that my parents and probably especially my mom has been like, you need to stand up for yourself and like, yeah, kind of don't let people walk all over you.
I love that. Thank you. Take no shit and a brave Sofia. Sometimes it's the same for me. It's like when you move to a new country, it doesn't feel that brave, but it is actually brave because you're changing your entire environment. But I believe it turned out to be really good for you in Copenhagen. I mean, you've been there for years now, and I can attest Copenhagen is an amazing city. Maybe diving into this a little bit deeper. Now you live in Copenhagen, and ever since, I mean, I think the last time we saw each other in person was maybe 4 years ago or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but we know something like that years ago. But we know each other like professionally. But we also follow each other on Instagram. And I look at your Instagram and you look like you have it all together. This very lavish lifestyle. You just enjoy your life. You're super fit. You do the cold plunges. I don't know, like a proper Finn. I think in the winter, you just jump into cold water. And I'm like, dang, she has it all together. Do you have any insecurities or anything that you struggle with is my question.
I think it's actually fun that you mentioned that. I think, well, again, let's start with saying that Instagram is not real life. That's for idiots, but it's a very polished image of how life is. I don't think that anyone really, or very few accounts post anything negative or anything kind of like their struggles in life and stuff like that. So I think that that's also kind of where a lot of people just focus a lot on like how it looks to the outside. And I've gotten this same comment actually from people that I barely know. Like I remember a wedding way back now. Sorry, I'm kind of segueing into something else, but there was a girl who I barely know. I think I met her a few times before, and then she said that something like, "Hey, how are you?" And it looks like you're doing so well in Copenhagen. I was
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean?" And then she just mentioned that Instagram thing as well. I was like, well, at least I've curated a life that looks very aspirational. No, I think insecurities, I think when I was younger, for sure, like a lot of girls had a lot of insecurities about my body image and stuff like that. But I think like at this age, I would say it's not so much body image issues, but it's maybe more things like, I think a lot of people might think that I'm like super secure in myself in terms of like being extremely extroverted, and I can be very talkative with people that I know. But I think that if I had to go to a room with people that I don't know, like where it's like not necessarily like presenting to people I don't know, but like, going to a networking event where I'm not like, I don't know anyone, that would be outside of my comfort zone. I still have to do that through work, and I have to do that sometimes also in my private life, but I would say that that's not a place that is like super enjoyable for me, at least in the beginning, until I kind of start talking with people and break the ice, so to say.
Yeah, I can totally relate. But diving a little deeper into the topic that we also discovered basically in the prep call, I think you've come a long journey, I guess, throughout your life when it comes to those insecurities regarding your own body, your body image. And we haven't spoken much. And I always try in the preparational calls not to speak too much because I want to leave the good stuff for the recording. But you already mentioned so many very valuable things about your journey that you went through, how you perceive your body when you were young, when you get in touch with fitness, what you're going through in your 20s and your 30s. But today, the 36-year-old Sofia, you are brave, you seem, and I guess you are very confident and very happy and feel good in your body, right? You mentioned that you work out to feel good as well and to be able to eat more, which I think is also a very good reason to work out a lot. But how did you get there? How was your journey to get to that level of confidence and to feel so confident in your own body?
Yeah, I think, again, kind of like going back to just female body images and like probably a struggle that many young women go through, and probably even more so the people that are young right now. Not to say that we are old in any way, but it's just the younger generation that are kind of the ones that have actually grown up with social media. Whereas like for me, at least, it has come like much later in life in a way, like probably around, well, before obviously you were 20 years old, but still at a later stage than for some young people today. And I think that for me, it wasn't maybe so much social media pressure as such in terms of like how you should look. It was more just like you looking at the other people around you. And I've always been quite skinny, so it's not that I needed to lose the weight. I just think that it was maybe a form of need to control certain aspects of your life. And I think it started in a very good way, where it was basically just like me having maybe gained a few pounds because I was a tutor for the first year students. And, you go out drinking, you party all the time. And then you're like, oh, maybe I should work out actually a bit so that I can kind of get back to where I was. But then I think it kind of easily goes into that obsession about like, okay, how much you weigh and what you eat. And then you start to kind of like thinking about like, okay, if I eat less, then maybe I will be more fit. And I think in the end, it kind of became this unhealthy habit where it's, instead of sports actually being something that relieves stress and relieves all of those negative emotions, it actually spurred stress in me. Whereas then I think at some point when I've gotten enough comments from friends and then boyfriends about kind of not so much about my appearance as such, but maybe kind of more them being clearly worried about like, okay, you are very kind of restricted in your way of living right now because you're prioritizing working out instead of like hanging out with your family and friends. So I think that was kind of a wake-up call for me to kind of be like, okay, maybe I should change some things up. And then the way that I started changing it was basically, for me, it was very much circulating around the weight, not so much the body image, like to some extent also like how you looked in the mirror, but more so like with fixation on like, I need to weigh a certain amount. So I stopped weighing myself. And then of course in the beginning, increasing food amounts is like hard because you are used to controlling that aspect. But I think then kind of shifting the focus from controlling the intake of food and your weight into how is your body feeling about this, like what does it bring, like does it bring positive emotions to do this type of workout? And then I like slowly started focusing on this type of sports that I actually enjoy. And it's still heat training like it was back when I was 20, but I just think that right now it's more focused on like how many burpees can I make instead of like how many workouts can I fit into a week. Like, the difference is more on kind of what can my body achieve versus how little can my body be, and how can I fit into this mold of skinny women.
Interesting. So you do a lot of things that you did also like 16 years ago, but your mindset behind these things is very different. And you mentioned that someone spoke to you and mentioned, hey, I'm kind of worried about you. If I just imagine someone doing that to me, I'd be like, hey, step away, I would immediately snap at them, I guess. But how were you able to take that feedback and internalize it, think about it, and then act upon it?
Yeah, I mean, I probably had, or I did have that same reaction in the beginning, for sure, because obviously you don't like want people bugging into your business, so to say. And it's also kind of, I think it's a gentle balance with people with either eating disorders or with kind of distorted body images, that it's kind of, it's your private space, it's your body, and you think you know it the best, and you kind of do. But I think it's also your relationship with your body is not necessarily always healthy, and you should be kind of able to take that feedback in also from people that see it from the outside. And I do think that somewhere deep inside I kind of understood that this is not fun, actually, like living my life like this, like being in that constant stress mode about what did I eat. And like if you, for instance, I went out partying a lot during that period because you're still young. And then every time that I went out partying, the next day I had that like bad conscience about having like consumed so much during the evening. So then it's kind of, okay, now I need to be extra diligent the next week. So I wasn't enjoying my life as it was. So I think it was also kind of something that I did internalize already before I made those decisions. But then at some point when it starts affecting your important relationships in your life, then you're like, okay, I really need to actually take action.
Interesting. And how did you, I'm just thinking the whole mindset shift that went on from you looking at yourself and just like being in that mindset, oh my God, I consumed so much, and then you feel bad about those things. How were you able to give yourself some grace and then appreciate, okay, I can have fun and I can feel good in my body? Do you have maybe tips for someone that goes through this, and how they can get there and how they can stay in that mindset?
I think it's probably very different from person to person. I know for my own personal self, it was because I knew that the kind of number on the scale was the directing thing, or the thing that could shift my mood very easily. So I had days where I was like, oh, I really actually like what I see in the mirror, even though right now looking at the pictures from that time, I feel like I was way too skinny. But like, let's say that I was happy with my mirror image and I was like, oh, I wouldn't even mind if I like gained a bit, or I probably wouldn't see it in the picture. But the fact that I knew what the scale was showing then completely derailed kind of that positive thinking, which was very kind of like, it doesn't make any sense saying no, but like back then it made sense. So I think for me, it was very important to just kind of eliminate the scale and just be like, okay, if you're happy with what you see in the image or in the mirror today, then that's enough. And then you can kind of focus on like slowly introducing the foods that you maybe before didn't want to eat and didn't kind of allow yourself to eat, and just trying to enjoy the fact that you can actually like be in the moment with your friends, eat what they are eating and not stress too much about it. Like, of course, I still sometimes get those feelings. Like if I go and binge eat a lot of candy on a weekend because I like just feel like it, of course, I might get those guilty feelings still about it, but that doesn't derail me in the same way as it did before. So it's still kind of something where I'm like, okay, you know what? You needed it at that point. You felt like having that kilo of candy. That's what it is. And it's not going to like make a huge difference to your body from one day to another. And I think that like realizing that and just like slowly working your way back to that healthy body image, and also understanding that like, honestly, I'm in good shape. Like it's like compared to whatever average, you are in good shape, and you are, your body like functions the way it should, and it can move you from A to B. It can do all of those 10 or 20 burpees. That should be enough. And also I think just getting those energy levels back, because when I started eating more and I kind of like was less restrictive in my way of eating and working out, I think that the whole like way of doing sports got much more enjoyable. And when I started noticing that, then I was like, okay, actually this is quite nice. It's like actually having that good feeling after a workout without being super exhausted and just being like, oh no, I like really want to eat a lot, but I cannot.
Yeah. And you're able to do 20 burpees instead of 15 or 10 or something,
exactly.
right? You can feel immediate impact. That's true.
Yeah.
What do you wish you would have known in like when you were young to prevent all that? Prevent is maybe not a good word, but I mean, I think all of young women or girls, they go through that, and they go through a lot of struggles because we are socialized in a very weird way that focuses a lot on how we look, how women look. And if you are out of shape, then you feel bad about it. What do you wish you would have known back then that could have helped you be more confident from the get-go? And don't focus on the scale too much, not too much on the mirror, but actually how you feel.
Yeah. Well, I think, you kind of nailed it in that sentence, because I think one thing is that you're very concerned about when you're in your 20s is because you're maybe still a bit finding yourself and who am I as a person. I think you rely a lot on like what you think you should look like and feel like and be like and so on. And I think in the end, like understanding that no one really gives a shit about your life, and kind of if you weigh 5 kilos less or more, like no one really cares. Like I think it's just understanding that part, because I think somewhere the whole insecurity and like how you should or should not look, it comes from somewhere, and it comes usually from like this, which I actually am a bit annoyed about, that we still have today, these like female body trends, where it's like one day it's being extremely skinny and being like the catwalk models, and another day it's being like Kim Kardashian and having like the shapes, and another day it's being super ripped and being kind of this bodybuilder type. So I think it's very sad that we still live in the world where that's the case, because I think that affects young women a lot, and probably like our age as well, like unconsciously are still kind of somehow affected by it. Not that you necessarily go out and try to become Kardashian, but like it still might affect the way that you view yourself. So I think just like focusing on how does working out and moving your body make you feel, whether it's yoga that you enjoy. I personally hate yoga, but like if someone enjoys that, do that. If it's heat training or boxing that you enjoy, do that. Like whatever your body kind of enjoys, and maybe also what makes you feel good about yourself, because sometimes it might be that, okay, you think that running is something that you should be doing to, let's say, lose weight, but your body is not built for it, or you don't like doing running, then find another sport instead of like pushing through something that is not enjoyable at all. And I think that that's something that wasn't really how I lived my life in my early 20s, at least. And I think a lot of young women probably are a bit in the same place.
Here, same. I went running because I thought I had to go running, and that was the only way to go. Yeah. And regarding what you said, the ridiculous part is Kim Kardashian doesn't even look like Kim Kardashian anymore. You know, like the actual Kim Kardashian trend, I don't know if you want to call it that, she has changed a lot as well.
Yeah,
anyway,
she's very slim nowadays.
Yes, exactly. I'm curious. And that question comes from actually something that I went through as well, because you did say in the end, no one really cares whether you weigh 5 pounds more or less. What environment did you grow up in? Like in your parents' house, the people, like, was there a lot of focus on the way you look, or did people really not care?
I don't think that it was so much like, and this is something that I've actually reflected around, just because I kind of went through what I went through, and like, not that it's unique in any way, but just like, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your childhood. I think it has also to do with what type of friends you have, or kind of if they go through the same thing, or if there's like a lot of talk about weight around your friend group. But I think that my mom, like, love her, super good mother, and I don't like to say anything negative about her, but I just think that how parents talk about their own bodies might affect young children. And I don't know if it has affected me, but I know that my mom was kind of, because she wanted to lose weight sometime during her adulthood, and that's not because she was in the same state that I was. It was maybe that she actually had gained weight and she just needed to lose it. But I think talking about it is not necessarily like something that helps you as a young woman, kind of developing still, like hearing at home that let's buy light products instead of full fat products and so on. Like, it was never directed to against me or her saying to me that I should lose weight. It was the opposite. And of course, she was also concerned when I was in that state where I was kind of very focused on my diet and so on. So I don't think that she would have ever wanted that to me, or ever kind of like pushed me towards losing weight. But I just think her speaking about her need to lose weight might have affected the way that I was viewing myself, because then it becomes like something that, oh, that's something that I should be focusing on. And of course, this is something that is from different directions kind of pointed at you during the time that I've been growing up, like what has been popular. I also was a teenager when it was like, like late 90s, well, not late 90s, like 2000s or something, where it was kind of a lot of this Christina Aguilera that is like extremely thin. And there was a lot of anorexia around kind of the what would you say, like not icons, but like, well, pop idols of that time. So I think all of that probably contributed to the way that you feel.
Yeah, definitely. That totally resonates with me as well. Would you say that back then you saw your mom as, oh, she needs to lose weight? You probably just saw a beautiful woman, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't think that I really reflected around that. I don't think that when it's your mom, it's your mom. It's like kind of like,
yeah,
do you really care how they look outwards? No, you don't. It's like they are also women, and they should have their full right to change things about their appearance if they don't like what they see in the mirror. Like that's, I think, completely up to them. I just think that it's maybe something that when you mention it a lot of times, or if you are very unhappy with how you look, then of course that's going to reflect on the daughters that you bring up. But I don't think, again, I think that probably most women do this unconsciously, and it's not like they want to project that on their daughters, but it might still affect the way that they think.
Yeah. It's super interesting what you're saying, because it makes me think about my upbringing a lot as well, and my mom, and how because I come from very rural Germany, and whenever you go somewhere, the first thing people usually say, or at least they used to, that person looks good, or that person gained weight, that person lost weight. So you greet yourself by first judging the appearance of the other. That's why I was curious how it was for you. And I remember that in my family, at least on my mom's side, people were struggling with weight. I'm also like, are we really all struggling with weight? But what I aim to say is, all I saw back then was my mom, and she's a beautiful woman, she always has been a beautiful woman. But based on what people always said, and all people gained weight and stuff, and or she needs to lose weight, I thought the same about her then as well, and then it created this very toxic downward spiral also in my life. So that's why I think it does have a very big effect on. So that's why I basically agree with what you say. It resonates with me, what your moms do, even if they don't do it actively, but it definitely does affect how you feel about your own body and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I don't think that there's like clear answers to whether that's something that has spurred something. I for sure know that she is not the reason why I kind of developed kind of these unhealthy habits that came from probably like more my own insecurities just in general, and maybe like the people that I saw around me, and or whatever it might have been, I don't know. But I just don't think that, like, generally speaking, when you're bringing up young kids, when you talk negatively about your own body, then that is something that will affect the kids in at least that way, that they will then start to reflect, should I also be kind of scrutinizing my own body, or should I just kind of, because if you constantly talk positively about your body or not even focus on it, like if you actually don't even say anything about the body and just kind of focus on other things and aspects about life, then that would be more positive than kind of mentioning even anything regarding like, I look fat in this, or I this and that.
Yeah, totally. Sophia, looking at those learnings and all the years that we've been talking through, what is a learning or something that you have realized on that whole journey from being not so confident to very confident, feeling strong in your body, that you really cherish? It could also be multiple learnings or things that you have realized.
Well, I think just in general, not necessarily even just body image, but I think a lot like what I try to implement in my life as much as possible. And like one that's also maybe a bit reflecting back to the whole bravery discussion, that I think that if you're unhappy with your life or with how you look, change it if you can. Like anything that is like in your control, you can go and change, instead of like just talking in circles about it, out how unhappy you are and so on. And I think like me, for instance, moving to Denmark, it was like, not that I was unhappy in my life in Helsinki, but it was just kind of like I was unhappy in the job that I had then. And then I started thinking about kind of whether is it like just a job that is making me unhappy, or is it just that I need some change in my life? And I had this like kind of thought and dream about testing my wings outside of Finland and like seeing how life would be if I like threw myself in the deep end and tried something completely different. And then this was like a strong gut feeling that I had. And then I was like, okay, what's stopping me really? Like it's a risk, yes, but at the same time, like it's a risk worth taking. And if you think that that's gonna make you happier, then it's worth trying. And I think like a lot of the times when I make decisions like this, it's like based on gut feeling, which sounds a bit crazy when it's like big life decisions. But I think in the end, like, you know what's good for you. And it might be that it wouldn't have worked out and I would have moved back to Finland, but at least then I have kind of experienced that and I have that off kind of the back of my mind so that it's not like annoying me constantly and say like, oh, I should do this. So I think just kind of trying to live life through that thought that a lot of the things that you are unhappy about are within your control. And then the things that you cannot control, just try and leave those and not focus on it. Because there are, of course, things outside of our control that is kind of like annoying you in day-to-day life. But the more you focus and give like energy to those thoughts, the unhappier you are as a person.
That is true. Yep, that's a word. Sofia, what are some things that today you are pondering about when it comes to your own habits, maybe also, and your fitness? Like, would you say you're always in this place where you'd be like, I'm strong, I'm happy, I'm good? Or do you also have throwbacks, and how do you deal with those?
Well, I think we discussed about this a bit in our prep talk about kind of the effect of hormones as something that I could probably like talk a lot about, like, and have been very interested in kind of learning. I think I try to rationalize a lot of things like with kind of how your body is feeling and when to give yourself grace and when to not, so to say. So I think there's kind of like differences. For instance, for me, it's like it's different to be just tired, like you feel sometimes in day-to-day life, and you're just couldn't be bothered to go to the gym and like do the workout. But I do know that I get that super good feeling afterwards. So there I might push myself to do it. Whereas if, let's say, I'm about to get my period or like I'm on my period or whatever, then kind of that the hormones that are in your body are making you moody, making you less kind of energetic, and are just negatively affecting how you are feeling about yourself, your body, and so on. So then in those cases, I kind of know that, okay, this is the state that I'm in right now. I shouldn't really, like, when I'm like in immense pain, for instance, I shouldn't go and do like a crazy workout because that's not going to make me feel better. Like some type of workout, yes, like going for a walk, moving your body, for sure. But like kind of understanding that there's a difference between what state your body is in and really like listening to your body a bit more than I have maybe in the past.
How did you realize that this is something that you should pay attention to, even, or that your cycle is affecting your fitness routine and your life? I mean, not even everything in life,
I don't know if it was kind of an aha moment as such. I think that, I mean, for me, it was, for instance, I was on the pill quite a long time. So, and during that time, I didn't really have I didn't have any mood swings or anything like that related to that. And I also didn't have any pain. So for me, when I went off the pill and I'd been on it like 15 years, you don't even know how it's kind of, how it is without the pill. So I think I've kind of experienced that, like those painful periods now again, like at this age. And I think that kind of, it has only come in the latest past years, maybe, that I've kind of focused a bit more on it, that I'm like, okay, I actually have period pain. I actually don't feel like going to the gym right now, and then trying to be like, okay, it's okay not to do it. Whereas maybe the younger Sofia would have been like, no, you do it, even though you're not feeling like it.
7 days in the gym, I have to go today.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a similar story for me, actually, that only in the past years I've come to realize, okay, I actually have to maybe listen to my body sometimes, and pain is not normal. But if you have pain, then okay, then it's just there, right? You have to live with it. It's just something that you just, that's a moment where you have to give your body grace, I guess. In regards to that and your hormones and your cycle, what other learnings did you have that blew your mind, maybe, or do you maybe have a learning that you can share with people? Because sometimes maybe for you, it's something, I know that now.
Yeah.
But I bet there are millions of women out there that have never heard about it. And I bet, I mean, in my bubble, cycle-based training or something, cycle-based nutrition is a thing. But I've only heard about that maybe 1.5 or 2 years ago. And before that, I was like, okay, that's the thing. I didn't know. And there are so many more women out there that do not know about the stuff that is so normal for you. Do you have an idea what that could be for you?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I adjust that much my diet and training based on my cycle. I think it's just like a general thing, like both like the female hormones, obviously, that men can't really relate to, like the fluctuations that we have. But then, of course, men also have like low days and high days and so on. And I think that I've been kind of reading some books around this, like not to claim that I'm an expert in any shape or form, but I think it's like super interesting to read about kind of the substances or neurotransmitters that we have in our body, and kind of like how to maximize the positive ones and how to like minimize the not so good ones. Like, for instance, the fact that when you have a lot of stress in your life, you heighten the cortisol levels in your body, which is not good. And then it's like creates inflammation in your body and so on. And I think for me, it's like not only adjusting my workouts to my cycle, but also if I've had a really heavy 2 workouts in a row, like on 2 consecutive days, and then I'm feeling that my body is like extremely sore. So instead of like being like, okay, I need to do that workout because I have to do something, then maybe then I would do the yoga that I actually hate, but which I know would help my body, because it's kind of like, it's not going to get me anywhere to do another heavy workout when my muscles are barely functioning. Like, it's kind of that whole, yeah, I think it's just like some common sense also in those situations, and actually like really, listening to your body, what it needs, rather than trying to push it. Because I think what I've like learned throughout the years in terms of like giving yourself grace and so on is that you are going to be more effective in your workouts if you take that day off when you need it, and then do a killer workout the next day, instead of just trying to get a workout in each day and then thinking that because I do it 7 times a week, for sure I should be seeing better results. But the fact is that you're not. And the same thing goes with your diet. If you're going to do it every day, like with this minimal intake of calories, your body is going to go on this like saving mode, where it's basically like just then savoring everything it has and kind of slowing down your metabolism and all these things. So I think that, that would be kind of my 5 cents on it. Like, just really listen to your body, focus on how you are feeling, what you feel in your body that it needs, instead of thinking what you should be doing.
And taking the rest, getting the rest, because that's I think where we get stronger, when we work out a lot, and getting sleep, right?
Yes, that as well.
Yeah. Do you get enough sleep? How's your sleeping schedule?
I think it goes a bit in waves, to be honest. But I did try this, and I think I mentioned this in the prep as well, that last year in January, like just after this whole like crazy Christmas period with both work and like parties and whatnot, I was just like, okay, I like both from a budget perspective, I was like, I have maxed out like everything. But then also from a health perspective, I was like, know when you feel almost that your body is a bit poisoned inside, because you've kind of like you've indulged a bit too much in a lot of things. So I think that for me, it was like in January, I was just like, okay, I need to like kind of go into my little hole and just focus on myself, focus on eating healthy, like cutting out anything that I felt like was bad for me. And I think it was like mainly cutting down on sugar and focusing a lot on like seasonal vegetables, doing soups and stuff like this, like very comfort food in that sense, like, but still healthy stuff. And then at the same time, I was like, okay, I'm not going to drink any alcohol during this month. I'm going to start doing yoga, just like practice myself being in the present instead of like going 50 miles an hour. And it just kind of took a whole turn of like changing so many aspects of my life. So going from basically me saying that, okay, I need to not eat out as much and not drink alcohol, into changing how I was training, and then just, slowing down, trying to read books before going to bed instead of scrolling social media, because I knew that that was kind of giving anxiety when you were seeing everyone else doing fun stuff and you were just like, okay, now just focus on what you are doing. And that period, I was sleeping super well.
Nice. Yeah.
So
you cut out the alcohol. Yeah, totally. I mean, you did say that you were into challenges a lot. You do a lot of challenges, right? I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's easier for me to do like short-term challenges than do like very long dedications. I think for me, like I really admire people that do this kind of Ironman, dedicate a year of their life to training to that.
Yeah.
I could never do that. I feel like that's like, for me personally, that would feel like a waste of life, basically, because it would be just like I mean, it's super cool that they do this, but it's just that for me, like prepping a year for something that might or might not happen. I mean, like, of course, it's in your control of like getting to that competition to some extent, unless you get sick or something else. But for me, it's kind of like I am a hedonist at heart in terms of like indulging in food and in good wine and seeing friends and just socializing. And I just feel like the people that I know that have done the Ironman, it's usually during that time they are not socializing as much because of course it's going to be hard for them when they can't eat the stuff that everyone else eats and they cannot drink and they cannot kind of stay out that late because they have a super early morning workout. They start at 5 with some cycling in the morning, and I just wonder if that's necessary. That's kind of like, I don't know.
I also know I could never. But yeah, for some it's like the ultimate kick, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's very cool. If that's your thing, do you? But
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
I'm more into the short challenges. That's nicer to do.
If you found your mojo, that's perfect. Do you
Yeah.
see clear correlation to how you perform at work? Because you have moments where you don't drink alcohol, you have these challenges. Do you also feel like you're performing better or you're more motivated at work?
I mean, for sure, if you are partying a lot, which I don't do that much anymore, but I would say that if you have like periods where all of your weekends are filled with Christmas parties and late nights and so on, you're not going to show up as rested.
Yeah.
Work. So of course that affects, but I wouldn't say that it has like a full-on correlation to my work. Not to my work motivation, at least productivity for sure. But motivation, I think that depends more on if you feel motivated about the work you do, if you feel like you're doing something meaningful and that you're contributing to something bigger, or if you feel like you're just working in your own little silo and not necessarily connected to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally can also feel a close correlation, especially. And also, you say you're big on discipline. I mean, from everything that you've told me, what your journey has looked like, that takes a lot of grit and discipline, right? Control and stuff. So
yeah, I'm disciplined in some areas of life and other.
Which ones aren't you disciplined in?
Okay,
I'm
so
curious.
I think my biggest vice and my biggest like addiction in life is candy. I can't like have zero discipline when it comes to like having that at home and not
Which
eating
kind?
it. Just anything really. It's like
Okay.
I think you can mix like this of where you can mix your own bags. That's like the worst for me.
Is like the gum candy or more chocolate?
I think it's like mix of like licorice and wine gums and whatever, like what
Gum.
they usually
Yeah.
have at like when you go to a supermarket. I don't know if they have the
Yeah.
similar setup in Germany, but that's a very big thing in the Nordics where you have this kind of choose a bit of chocolate, choose a bit of wine gums and so on. That's probably like the thing that I cannot live without. And it's like I can take breaks from it, and I know that like when you have 2 weeks of no sugar, your body actually gets like used to it, and that okay,
Yeah.
you don't actually need it, you don't crave it. But then I reach that point where I'm like, yeah, but YOLO, I can't live without candy my whole life. So it's like then I go back and eating it again. So I think that's probably where I lack discipline a lot, and then tasks that I don't like doing. So that's also one thing that is kind of easy to push into the future, like
Yeah.
that I'm very good at.
Some things they solve themselves if you just let them sit for long. It's something
Yeah.
I've learned in my life. Yeah.
I
All
think it's
right,
also
Sophia.
like when you reach a deadline, then you start
Yeah.
working. Like I can be super effective within the last 24 hours, but like if I have a task that I don't like doing and I have, let's say, 2 months to complete it, I will not start before those 24 hours or 48 hours.
You always take the time that you have available.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Sophia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just one more thing, because we did speak about it. You had an amazing book tip, I think. Do you want to share what that is? A book that has touched your life?
Yeah, so I actually have several. So I have two that talk about kind of the impact of neurotransmitters, hormones, and so on. One is called Six Substances That Will Change Your Life by David JP Phillips. That's a Swedish book originally, but I believe that probably is also in English. The other one is The Dopamine Nation that talks a lot about addiction, which is not maybe something that you would relate to. It's like kind of drawing these parallels to alcohol addiction and drug addiction, why you're kind of addicted to those highs. But it talks also about kind of fast dopamine versus slow dopamine. So for instance, sugar would be a fast dopamine.
Yeah.
And then you have workouts and going to sauna bathing, that would be slow dopamine. So that's like where you can have long effects of long positive effects of things that you are doing. So those would be the two kind of in that category. And then I have two other ones that are called Essentialist by Greg McKeown and then Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey. And those are a lot about kind of this, when I talked about kind of procrastinating and pushing things into the future and trying to solve 50 things at the same time. Like they talk a lot about like how to focus on the essential things in life and like on one thing at a time, because our mind is not made for multitasking. That's also why I find it so funny that these job like descriptions every time that you have like a list of things that you need to be able to do in a job, it's always multitasking.
Yeah.
And there is no such thing as a like multitasker. Yeah. Like you can for sure like do a bit of everything, but you cannot do everything perfectly if you're focusing on many things at once. So I think those would be kind of my main books of recommendation if you want to kind of find a bit more center in your life.
Nice, thank you. I know one out of the four, the Hyperfocus, I've actually read and I have that at home. I really liked it too.
Yeah,
thank you for those.
A bunch of other ones as well, but I think these are the most suitable ones for kind of the topics that we've discussed.
Perfect. If you need any more book recommendations, people out there, feel free to reach out to Sofia, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe in order for them to do that, where can they reach you best?
I think LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to find me, just based on the name. I think that's where you can just shoot a message and I'll do my best to answer. If you want to kind of create a better life, more balance between your mind and body, then I'll for sure have some book recommendations for you.
I'll definitely put those links and your LinkedIn profile into the show notes. So, Sofia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of What the Flex. I hope you found some inspiration and motivation from today's conversation. And if you love this episode, please do subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for What the Flex and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep pushing, keep growing, and as always, keep flexing.